We've been here in Iraq for about 6 years. And, when we first came to northern Iraq, the city of Suleimania, I was surprised by the fashions here. Uh, this isn't Paris or New York or whatever, but, and we're some distance from Baghdad as well. But you can find all the latest fashions here, right? You can find your Gucci, your Prada, your Versace, your Vera Wang. Well, maybe not Vera Wang, but anyway, you have all these. Well, they're actually from China, I guess, but all the names are here, and that includes some amazing local styles. Obviously, the Kurdish women have these amazing dresses, the Jili Kurdi that they wear. The men have various styles of Jili Kurdi that they wear as well, and it's awesome. It's fun. Have you ever been to a fashion show? I've never seen a fashion show, except maybe just some clips on TV and so on. One thing I know is that the models doing the modeling of the clothes, they seldom get talked about. It's mainly the clothing designers that get talked about. And it's the clothing designer that either gets the glory or gets the shame, depending on what sort of stuff they're producing, right? In this session today, we're talking about more than fashion, more than clothing, but we're using clothing to talk about the life of Joseph. And we're asking these questions. Whose design are you wearing? Whose plan are you following? Who or what is in control of your life? For all of us humans, the most important issue is this. Is God getting the glory with my life? And so we're gonna take a look at in this session. We're gonna follow some of the, if you don't mind the pun, some of the threads of Joseph's life. To begin with, we'll look at Genesis 41, 38 and 39. So Pharaoh asked them, that is the wise men of his court, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all of this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you." And so in these verses, we get a glimpse of God getting a ton of glory through the life of Joseph in front of the whole country of Egypt, actually. And I believe that we're going to see by looking at Joseph's wardrobe that when God is in charge, he gets the glory. When God is in charge of our lives, then he's the one who gets the glory from our lives. The three threads that we're going to follow through Joseph's life in these minutes are, number one, the coat of Jacob's design, that is the schemer. Secondly, the coat of Joseph's design, the dreamer. And then thirdly, the coat of God's design, the Redeemer. What's the big deal about God getting glory? God getting glory for himself is not an isolated theme in the Bible. It's everywhere. And Isaiah 48 has these key words in it. "From now on, I will tell you of new things, of hidden things unknown to you. They are created now and not long ago. You have not heard of them before today. So you cannot say, 'Yes, I knew of them.' You have neither heard nor understood. From of old your ear has not been open. Well do I know how treacherous you are. You were called a rebel from birth. For my own name's sake I delay my wrath. For the sake of my praise I hold it back from you, so as not to cut you off. See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. For my own sake, I do this. How can I let myself be defamed? I will not yield my glory to another." These are big words from a big and glorious God. You remember the story of Gideon? Gideon, one of the minor judges, we might say. He from the smallest tribe, smallest family, and so on. At least that's what he said when an angel came to tell him that God had chosen him to deliver the Israelites from the Midianites. And so when the angel brought this message to Gideon, Gideon went and basically rallied the troops to go and attack Midian. He ended up with about 22,000, and God spoke to him and said, "You have too many. If you go to fight with this many men, I will not receive glory for the battle, for winning the battle. And so you need fewer men." So Gideon said to the whole army, "Hey, whoever of you is afraid, go on home and we'll see who we're left with." Well, 12,000 men left. They were left with 10,000. And God said, "There are still too many for me to get the glory for this battle." And so they went through another part of the process of weeding out people, and they came down to 300 men, and God said, "This is enough. This is enough. You will take these 300 with you, and you will go into the battle, and I will give you the victory, and I will receive the glory." God is all about getting glory for himself, not just from nations, not just from armies, not just from big things, but from your life and from my life. And I think Joseph shows that to us. Jacob, Joseph, and God in this story of Joseph. Because when God is in charge, then he gets the glory. Number one, the coat of Jacob's design, however, was the schemer. And the reason, of course, why I call it the schemer, this particular robe, is that Jacob was known as a schemer. In fact, that's kind of what his name was, the grasper, the schemer. Joseph is born into a family of 12 brothers, 4 different women. And Joseph was the firstborn son of Rachel, the wife that Jacob loved. And for this reason, Jacob showed Joseph favoritism. It was very, very obvious to everyone in the family that Joseph was the favorite son of Jacob, even though there were many brothers who were older than Joseph. In fact, Jacob gave him what we know as a coat of many colors. And Joseph was known far and wide as the favorite. In fact, Joseph didn't help his cause by sharing his amazing dreams with his brothers and his father and the whole family about how the whole family was they were all going to bow down and worship him. And of course, that added fuel to the fire of jealousy for them. In Genesis 37, Joseph has gone to search for his brothers. They're feeding the sheep, and Jacob has said, "Go find your brothers." Joseph goes to search for his brothers, and when he came to them, here in Genesis 37, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they threw him into a pit, a dry pit. Reuben had a plan that he was going to go back later and pull Joseph out and try to regain some of his own favor with their father. But Reuben was away, and Judah and the others found a way that they could get some money out of this whole thing. And so they pulled Joseph out of this pit, and they sold him to some people who were, it was a band of traders heading toward Egypt. They sold him, and they killed a lamb, and they put the blood on the coat, and they took it back to their father, pretending that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. Jacob, Joseph's father, had schemed the birthright and the blessing from his twin brother Esau, and this was what he was known for throughout most of his life, was scheming and grasping and tricking and so on. And then he was tricked by his own father-in-law in a number of ways. I believe what Jacob was doing here for Joseph was he was offering him a shortcut to control, a shortcut to glory. Because as I mentioned, Joseph was the firstborn son of the favorite wife, but he was far from being the firstborn son of the family. But Jacob is scheming for Joseph to receive all the blessings of the firstborn. in the sense even of ruling the family, to really being someone, of having an identity of, hey, I'm the top guy, right? But here's the thing, though. Joseph, he's the one who puts the coat on, and he keeps wearing this coat. And I think perhaps it's because he's going along with his father's plan. That maybe, in a sense, he doesn't know any better, and yet he should be seeing some signs that this is not the way that things should be done, right? God is not getting glory here. But in the middle of all of this, God is at work, and God is speaking to Joseph, and God is the one giving him these dreams, and Joseph believes that these dreams are from God. And so, in a very real sense, he is entrusting himself into God's care and God's plan from the beginning. The problem with this robe, this garment, the schemer, is that Jacob is the one who will get the glory, because it's his plan. It's his robe that he's given to his son, and Jacob is the one who's going to get the glory, and that's not right. God is supposed to be the one who gets the glory from our lives. What was the result? The coat was torn off of him and covered with blood, and Jacob was made to believe that Joseph was killed by wild animals. When God is in charge, he gets the glory, and that's exactly how it should be. But Jacob was trying to grasp glory for himself. Well, then in another sense, Joseph as well was struggling with this whole idea, because the second coat is the coat of Joseph's design. It's called the Dreamer. And let me go on with the story, and then we'll try to draw some lessons out of this. Joseph is taken to Egypt. He is sold into slavery to a man called Potiphar, who is the captain of Pharaoh's guards, or the palace guard. Potiphar recognizes that Joseph is blessed. Everything he touches, it goes well. He prospers, right? And so Potiphar puts him in charge of more and more and more of his household. In the end, he's in charge of everything except what Potiphar eats. And so he's doing well. He's succeeding. The problem is that Potiphar's wife notices Joseph, who's a very handsome young man, and she begins flirting with him and tempting him, saying, come, be with me, lie with me. And Joseph resists, saying, please don't do this, because my master has not withheld anything from me. I'm in charge of everything except you. And I'm not going to sin against God and against my master by doing this sort of thing with you. Well, she won't take no for an answer. And so finally, she has made a plan that all of the other servants are out of the house. And Joseph is there, and she grabs him, and she's going to pull him into her bed. And he turns and runs, but he leaves his outer robe behind. And in this moment, then she realizes that she's going to be shamed, and she's been rejected by this young man, and so she starts yelling and screaming that the Hebrew has come to molest us. He's come to make fun of us, and so she puts Joseph down in front of the whole household, and then in front of Potiphar as well, and blaming Joseph for seducing her. So Potiphar throws Joseph into prison, and so you think, well, how can this get any worse, right? This was another shortcut to glory. Here's Joseph, and I call him the dreamer, because God, yes, has given him dreams, and yet here we find Joseph kind of, in a sense, trying to make his own way, and we're going to see a little bit more of that in the next section. But Joseph is, yes, he's succeeding, but he, once again, has been stopped from gaining glory for himself, because God is the one who will receive glory for his own plan, his own work in us. So Joseph had a chance to be somebody, to rule over the whole household, maybe a shortcut to getting home to his family. He's working his way up in Egyptian culture and language and status, and maybe if he's very careful, he can save his own life and get back home to his family. But God has much bigger plans, much more glorious plans. The problem with this plan, with Joseph making his own way, is that Joseph gets the glory and not God. What was the result of all of this? Well, another robe gets torn off of him. He certainly has Potiphar's wife's favor, which is not a place to be. He is falsely accused and he's put into prison. And so it appears that he's gone to the bottom level of Egyptian society here. Friends, when God is in charge, then God gets the glory and everything is as it should be. The third robe, the third coat, is of God's design, and I call it the Redeemer. And the key verse for this is Genesis 41:42. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. How did Joseph get to this place? Well, when we last were with him, he was in prison, and again, in prison, he begins to prosper, and everything that he does is great. And so the prison warden, basically, the jailer, begins putting Joseph in charge of things, and he becomes his right-hand man. And so he helps him with everything. And there comes a time when Pharaoh's cupbearer and his baker are thrown into prison, and Joseph takes care of them. He oversees their care. Well, he comes into them one morning, and he sees that both of them are very sad, very depressed, and he asks them what happened. Long story short, they each tell him that they had a dream. Each of them had a dream, and they don't know what it means, and they're confused. And Joseph says, well, I don't know, but God can tell you the meaning of your dreams. He can let you know. And so they tell him their dreams, and he gives the meaning of their dreams. And for each of them, it comes true exactly as Joseph has said. Well, the man who is restored to service in Pharaoh's presence, Joseph says, hey, when you get out of here, please remember me. Tell Pharaoh about me, that I'm here and I've been unjustly accused and I need to be set free. Well, the cupbearer forgets all about Joseph for some time. We don't know exactly how long, but Pharaoh himself, one night, has two dreams that he absolutely doesn't know what they are, and no one can tell him the meaning of the dreams. And he's about to go crazy when the cupbearer says, "Oh, I remember a guy who told me what my dream meant, and it all came true. You should tell your dream to him." Well, where is this guy? Well, he's actually in prison. Well, they go and they send for Joseph, and he gets all cleaned up and shaved, and gets some different clothing on. Obviously, he takes his prison clothing off, and he comes before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh tells him the two dreams, and Joseph tells him the meaning of the dreams. And he also takes another step of faith, I would say, and he tells Pharaoh what he should do in response to these dreams. He says, this is a key for Joseph's whole story, I think, and that's this. He says to Pharaoh, the reason you've had two dreams is because this matter has been firmly decided by God, and it will surely happen. Well, at this point, Joseph himself, it's been 13 years since he had his two dreams, and they haven't come true yet. What amazing faith in God. Joseph shows us such faith. Why do I call this coat of God's design, the Redeemer? Well, Joseph has now traded in his prison garb, his prison clothes, for the robes of a king. He becomes the second in command of Egypt because all this has taken place. Joseph has been put into this place, and kind of the end of the story is that he saves his family. He redeems his family, saves them from death, and He saves the whole nation of Israel. When God is in charge, amazing things happen, big things happen, and God gets amazing glory. God gets the glory. Paul said it in this way in Colossians 3. So, chosen by God for this new life of love, dress in the wardrobe God picked out for you, that of compassion, kindness, humility, quiet strength, discipline. Be even-tempered, content with second place, quick to forgive an offense. Forgive as quickly and completely as the Master forgave you. And regardless of what else you put on, wear love. It's your basic, all-purpose garment. Never be without it. That's from the Message, Colossians 3:12-14. When God is in charge, God gets the glory, and all is well with the world and with our own souls. My friends, of course, we're not talking about clothes, are we? We're not talking about changing clothes, changing our wardrobes. We're actually talking about changing our hearts and minds and our motivations. Who gets the glory for how you are living your life right now? Maybe it's a parent or another relative who's getting the glory for your life. Or maybe it's a friend who's scheming and who has designs on your life. Now, if you're a child, a young person who's listening, obviously God has set up people over you, like your parents, to help you to grow and to mature. Your first responsibility is to obey your parents in the Lord because it's the right thing to do and because you're promised a long life if you do so. But what if someone asked you to lie for them, to cover something up? What if someone came to you with all the answers for the next quiz or the next test, and it would guarantee that you get an A? What if someone offered you a shortcut, maybe some sort of a pill or a drink, just to get you through this time of depression or fatigue that you're going through? What if someone offered you a shortcut to really being somebody, having a new amazing identity, and maybe being famous even? As you go along with that plan, they get the glory or the blame. You see, Joseph had a father who was a schemer. He would do whatever it took to put things in the order that he thought they should be. And maybe you've been going along with the plan like Joseph did because it's comfortable, it's easy, and you might end up looking pretty good in that outfit. But in your innermost thoughts, you know that God is not at the center of that. He's not the mover and the shaker of this plan. He has something different for you to wear. Well, maybe you have some dreams of your own. Maybe you're doing some of your own scheming and manipulating, doing all you can to make those dreams a reality. You are so focused in on following your little thread that you can't see how God is weaving everything around you into a God-sized dream. God says to you today, it's not about you, your plans or your dreams. I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you a bright future and an incredible hope. Would you be willing to say this to God today? God, I'm a schemer, and I come from a long line of schemers. I'm a dreamer, but this is a nightmare. Today I give this garment to you. If you've never trusted in Jesus to make you acceptable to God before, you could do it at this very moment. Say this prayer: God, forgive me for trying to get to you my own way and by my own understanding. I now trust Jesus and the covering of his righteousness to bring me to all that you are and all that you have for me. Today, wherever you are, however, you may be listening to me, and you've already trusted Christ to save you from hell and to bring you to God. But you realized with a jolt that today you're still calling all of your own shots. You're still designing clothing, so to speak. You're still scheming and dreaming your own plans. That's why you're feeling so miserable, so conflicted inside. Father still calls you to complete surrender to all that He is and all that He has for you, but you have been refusing to give up control to Him until today. Today, you've come to a crisis. Either you're going to give Him total control and be filled with His peace and power, or you're going to walk away from all of it because you're tired of playing the game only halfway. The thing is, He has to get the glory. He will not share it with anyone else. And for Him to get the glory in your life, it has to be His design, His dream, and His power in every way. Would you say yes to Him today? Would you give Him your pride today? Say to Him, God, I'm so filled with pride, and before I fall on my face again, I just confess it to you. I agree with you. I humble myself before you and accept your grace to me. Would you give Him your self-sufficiency? Say to Him, God, I was so sure I could do this on my own, but now we both know how many times and how badly I've failed. I say to you, God, that I am powerless, and I need your power to flow through me. Would you be willing to give up all the plans and dreams with which you have covered yourself? Would you take those off and offer them up to Him? I know that when we do that, it leaves us exposed and vulnerable before Him. In a sense, naked before God. But He is good and He's gentle. And the moment we do that, He begins to clothe us with Himself, and He gets all the glory, and we get filled with incredible joy.